The SEC released its second edition of schedules, COVID edition, if you will, on Monday. Time for the Voice of College Football to break down the numbers. We have posted Tennessee and our thoughts about the Vols and record projection for 2020 in a 10-game season. Let's move on to Eastern Division rival South Carolina with my South Carolina, Florida State, USC, Alabama, Oklahoma color shirt on. South Carolina, the numbers that you see are representing the FPI projection for the win probability versus the Voice of College Football. Keep in mind that just because I estimate that a team has a plus 50% chance of winning the game doesn't mean I'm going to predict them to win the game. Also keep in mind that the reverse holds true. Also keep in mind that if we get to my prediction for that particular game during game week, and this is 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks from now, I could certainly make a different prediction at that point. But as it stands right now, my record projection for South Carolina is as follows. The game against Tennessee, if you checked out the Vols video, you know that we are selecting Tennessee to win it with a 57% chance for Tennessee of winning. I've got the exact reverse that the FPI. I like Tennessee defeating South Carolina. Gamecocks go to Florida the next week. I've got them with a 22% chance of defeating the Gators. Close game the past 2 years with South Carolina taking on the Gators, but they've got to go to Gainesville again. They blew a lead there late 2 years ago, and they lose it against the Florida Gators. They pick up a win against Vandy. Going to be tough for the Commodores to post an SEC win with no FCS and Group of 5 teams to beat up during the non-conference slate. And Vanderbilt, I've got with a 38% chance of winning. The South Carolina number is, of course, 62, and they defeat Vandy. Then they go to back to South Carolina to take on Auburn in a home game. The FPI only gives the Gamecocks a 20% chance of defeating the Auburn Tigers. I've got the Gamecocks at 28%. They lose the game. They go to LSU. I give the Gamecocks a bit of a puncher's chance in this one against LSU in Death Valley at 15%. The FPI at 8%. I came up with my numbers before I checked out the FPI, but South Carolina, regardless, loses that one and then loses 3 consecutive games in hosting Texas A&M. I give them a 26% chance of defeating the Aggies. And the FPI gives South Carolina an 8% better chance of defeating the Aggies. All right, rough season at this point, but they go to Ole Miss. They pick up a win as a 48% chance of winning against the Rebels on the road. They pick up another win against Missouri at this point, although I only think that South Carolina has a 60% chance of winning that game against the Tigers. And then they finish out the 2020 campaign with losses against Georgia and Kentucky. I give them a 38% chance of defeating the Wildcats. Certainly that gives them a decent shot of winning that game against Kentucky, but I really like the Wildcats football team heading into 2020. So I've got South Carolina with 3 wins on the board against 7 losses for 2020. If you check out the FPI, not necessarily the same games, but for South Carolina, the FPI projects South Carolina as a favorite in 3 of 10 games as well. Would love to get your record projection for South Carolina. Please play along in the comment section below right here at MarkRogersTV, the Voice of College Football. And of course, you got to subscribe.